All right, so welcome everybody. We are back. So we are week 5 in the semester, but it's week 4 in MISA. So we're like 1 week behind in MISA, but we still got plenty of action, even though we're 1 week behind. So welcome everybody. So if you've been with us for the last 4 weeks or so, we are happy to hear that you're still sticking with us each Thursday. And if it's your first time, welcome to MISA. So we've been pretty much doing these sessions on Zoom virtually since last semester. But I feel the interest and the excitement and maybe just the normalcy of these Zoom sessions is making things a little bit easier for everybody to get in and more convenient. So we're going with the we're going with the system the best we can. So as I had mentioned in past sessions, the way that MISA works, the way we structure the meetings is we have 1 week of general meetings and then we have 1 week of company information sessions. So tonight is when we have one of those company information sessions. So we're really excited to have 2 reps from Citrix coming in. So they'll talk about Citrix and what they do and kind of where their roles are. But if you pretty much haven't heard of Citrix, right, then you may be living under a rock. So you want to get out of the rock, right, and hear, what are some of the things that are going on, because Citrix is heavily involved in all aspects of IT. So really excited. So our 2 special guest speakers are very dear and near to FAU and MISA because they were and are FAU MIS alums. So they were in the same classes that you were. They were taking the same courses, right? They had the same, education and opportunity that you have, and they'll be able to share a little bit about kind of their journey on how their educational path went, how they got involved at Citrix, and kind of how even at Citrix their roles have changed and evolved. And then they'll hopefully be able to give you some really great advice of what you can do to be successful like they are. So without any further ado, can we give a nice warm MISA virtual round of applause for Bruno and Daniel from Citrix?
Nice. That's awesome. I appreciate the intro. You guys are too kind. I'll get used to this type of meeting because normally on the day-to-day, and Daniel can attest to this, our meetings are not as fun and not as easy to talk to. Sometimes we get some interesting ones. But yes, I am humbled to actually come back and participate and present. I don't take this lightly. I think it's a very unique opportunity as a leader at Citrix. I know the power that we have and the responsibility that we have in shaping up the new talent that we come in and talent that we bring on. And Daniel is a testament because he was recruited right out of MIS into Citrix. So I did want to give you guys a little bit of background. I'll start off and then I'll pass it over to Daniel. The idea for today is give you guys an overview of what Citrix is, what we do, our place in the market, because as you're all are going into a IT profession, it's important for you to know the importance of Citrix and how the industry is shaping to be more cloud-centric, a more subscription-based, more than anything. So I do have a few slides. It's only a couple hundred slides. So by 12, I think we'll be able to get done. So, but by all means, interrupt me. This meeting is for you guys. If you have a question, a comment. When we did this last, we did a very interactive session. So we feel like, yes, a couple of hundred, yes. I feel like it'll be better if you all engage. So by all means, throw some comments on the chat. Feel free to jump in. I am going to try to figure this out, how to share my screen here. So if I mess up, Jonathan, if you could help me out, but I think I might be able to figure out. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep, you got it.
Oh, look at that first try. Cool. All right. So, all right. So my name is Bruno. I am originally from Brazil. I am I guess an alum, right? And I do believe that my story is similar to many of you, especially if you are taking night classes. I started FAU, as a part-time student, and I really didn't know where I was gonna go, because at the time I worked in a bank. I actually had a completely different background than IT. I was always in sales. My first sales job was selling stickers in middle school. So I always had that entrepreneurial and that salesy mindset. So I went that route. I went into banking. I did banking for about 10 years. It felt like a long time. And it got to a point that I didn't have any more place to grow. Right. And I think that's where IT comes into play, and the benefit of what you guys have in front of you right now, because the lessons and the classes that you're taking today will pay dividends. And I know that when I was in class, a lot of the time, especially at night, right, I did a full-time job. And I went to school at night, and like 9 o'clock rolled around, and I'm like, man, really, I'm never going to use anything about data analysis and business intelligence. And today it's a very integral part of my job, and we're going to show you how data is super important today. So if you don't take anything from this session, know that what you're doing is going to pay dividends for you. Stick to it. I know it's not always easy, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of open doors for you in the future. So back to my story, I got to a point that I was in banking for, almost 10 years. I wanted to do something else. I came back to school to complete my bachelor's, actually my master's at the time. And I stumbled upon MIS because I liked IT. I really thought it was interesting. I liked the management piece of it. And it was the best decision I've ever made following through that path, right? I did start at Citrix in 2013. I started as a renewal rep, much like Daniel. I was actually referred by a customer of mine that had just recently gotten promoted at Citrix. And the reason why I tell you the story is because it took me 3 tries to get in. Right, the interview process was pretty difficult. I didn't know at the time really the difference between a data center and a server. So again, encouragement. If you don't know all the bits and pieces of IT, that's fine. You can make it. I didn't know the first thing about anything. I knew numbers and I knew sales. And I feel like over the years I amassed a big knowledge because of the opportunities that Citrix has, and obviously the tools that we have in our tool bag. So I started as a renewal rep. I did renewals, which we can discuss a little bit further down the presentation. But I did renewals. I went into net new product sales. What that means is that essentially, instead of you renewing a customer, you're going to be selling new projects. I did that for about 1.5 years. Then I was promoted to team leader, which kind of gave me the taste of management, which was something that I really enjoyed, helping people, see people develop. And when an opportunity presented itself, I was actually able to join the renewals management team, and I had a team of my own. And that's where actually, Professor Sweet and I were able to actually partner together and recruit Mr. Hoyos here, which at the time I managed Latin America. And it was a perfect fit because I needed a Spanish speaker, and I pulled him in. So it was a very good mix between FAU, Citrix, and myself and Dr. Sweet. So I know I talked a lot of information to unpack, but I want to pass it over to Dan. He's going to talk a little bit about himself and where this all started with Citrix. So Dan, take it away.
Great. Thanks, Bruno. And thank you all for this opportunity to talk to you again. My name is Daniel Hoyos. I'm a territory manager at Citrix. And I was sitting in the same place as you are right now in MISA a couple of years ago. That's not really where my story started. I graduated from FAU as a biologist, and then I started a company for sales to Colombia. And I realized I didn't have enough IT knowledge to run an online sales company. So that's why I went to school, did a master's in information technology and management at FAU, and joined MISA. So during those MISA meetings and through Dr. Sweet's emails, I saw that Citrix was actually looking for people to start working under Bruno. And I realized that Citrix was a company that has been successful for over 30 years, that have had a laser focus on what they wanted to do, but they constantly adapted through change. So that's a great opportunity for me to, well, that's what I thought. It's a great opportunity for me to learn what a good company is like, and maybe even either do a career within a company or at least learn and eventually do my own company. So a little background from Citrix. Citrix started over 30 years ago, and some people from IBM, some engineers from IBM, started Citrix after they weren't after IBM itself started using the operating system from Microsoft. Then shortly after, they started getting some investment from Microsoft and Intel to build upon the software operating system that Microsoft was generating. So we've constantly been improving on top of the solutions that Microsoft has given. And if you go to this next slide, Bruno, please. But overall, our mission has always been to make it easy to use any device and get a secure connection to any application or information anywhere. So that's been our main goal since the beginning. And we've been going after it ever since. We've never changed. We've just been constantly adapting to different things in the market, adapting to change, trying to take advantage of opportunities. And that's what has made us continuously be a successful company. Next slide, please, Bruno. Oh, and also, if you have any questions, please interrupt. I'm happy to have an interactive presentation, although we'll open up for some questions at the end. So as you can see, we started as an access company. We were helping people be able to access whatever applications and data they had in centralized servers. But slowly the market started changing. We started seeing collaboration tools develop. We started seeing more and more the power of the internet, the power of distributed network. So we started going into collaboration software. We built up our networking portfolio. We started expanding our offering into virtualizing desktops as well as applications, and even going into different mobiles. When Citrix started, we didn't even have Android or Apple, and now we're able to deliver all those applications, desktops to any device, whether it's Android or Apple or Linux software, anything. So we've been constantly adapting to change. And as you can see here, our revenue has constantly been growing as we adapt more to the market, but always with that singular focus on helping people access applications and data from anywhere. Next slide, please, Bruno.
All right. Cool. So, and I just wanted to point something out that, right now what's the big deal? Everything's connected. But you got to remember that we started in the 90s, right? So back then, you didn't have a smartphone, right? You didn't have email on your phone. So for someone to come in and say, you know what, I want users to have applications, data, and all that they need to do in a device that is not necessarily a robust device, meaning it's not a powerful computer. Essentially, I want to just project those pixels that are sitting on a powerful data center over to any endpoint. It was pretty crazy at the time. And I'm glad that we stuck to it. One thing that I did want to point out is that in the beginning, when God created the earth, Oh, no. When we first rolled out, we were a one-trick pony, that we say, right? We had a one solution, right? We were able to publish applications. So let's say you had a, let's make an easy example. Let's say you had, you wanted to project PowerPoint. You wanted to deliver PowerPoint to your users. So you use XanApp, which was our old solution, to deliver that one application, right? As we grew into the virtual computing and the cloud era, we started seeing the need to not only deliver applications, but also full-blown desktops. So for more powerful use cases. In addition to that, we were also seeing the need to manage mobile devices. As Daniel mentioned, when mobile devices started making an appearance, IT needed a way to secure them and a way to wrap them so that, users would still be able to use it, but IT would also be secure, right? So Citrix started a path into that arena, delivering, mobile device management. As that grew, people started sharing data, right? Heavy, files, medical records, lawyers, trading contracts, sensitive information. So we found, another opportunity to actually, build upon our portfolio and deliver a full workspace, meaning apps, desktops, data, and managing the devices. So as you can see, we kind of grew through these past couple of years, and you can see on this slide how every year we started to innovate. And you're going to see further down the presentation that Daniel is going to go through our very latest offering, which is going to be pretty interesting for you guys to see. But in a nutshell, what we're seeing today is a very rapid move towards the cloud. And, the cloud is nothing more than a very big remote data center, right? So in the past, companies would invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in hardware and in infrastructure to be able to support their users, right? So today, what companies are doing, instead of purchasing all of these devices and all of these servers, what they do is they hire out a service through a cloud provider, maybe AWS, Azure, or Google. And what companies do today is they migrate their workloads, which is a fancy word for applications and data, onto the cloud, whatever provider. And then Citrix provides them access, between their endpoints to whatever cloud the company suggests, right? So the beauty of Citrix is that we're cloud agnostic. What that means is that we work with any cloud. So companies are not really tied to a specific vendor. And we can deliver a full-blown solution today, which integrates an intelligent workspace. On our previous presentation, I don't know if anybody here remembers, but we showcased exactly what that workspace really was. And we even have a demo online that you guys can, check it out. But I just wanted to show how the evolution went according to the past couple of years, and, also the need for having a solution that was more catered to the cloud. Let me get the next slide over. Okay, cool. And the last piece before I turn over to Daniel, it's, for me, I've been at Citrix for about 8 years now, and it's impressive to see how much we touch. And when you look at 99% of Fortune 500 companies, that's a strong statement. So when Dr. Sweet said, that Citrix is pretty much involved everywhere that you look on in IT, he's right. We are not an IBM, right? We're not a Microsoft, but we are a very big piece of the puzzle of what an IT organization really is. So if you look at the growth numbers that we're showing, especially around the subscription business, which is something that's super dear and near to my heart, because I am a subscription manager today. So when you look at that, that means that customers are moving away from a perpetual offering. What that is customers go in, they buy a license, and they own that license outright, and they can use it forever, to a subscription, which brings a lot more value to it, because with a subscription, although you have a yearly fee, you get updates, you get support, you get the latest and greatest features, and you also get the ability to scale up or down. There's a whole gamut of benefits within that space, which I'll pass it over to Daniel so he can kind of talk about what those benefits are.
Perfect. So exactly like Bruno was saying, we started out as a company that was helping deliver applications from data centers. And as any good company did, as the market was shifting towards a more cloud-based approach, as more applications like Workday, Salesforce, SAP, and almost everything, Office 365, now it's getting delivered from the cloud. So we adapted in order to add value to the new reality of the market. I feel like the founders of Citrix would probably not have been able to know what Citrix has become, but they gave us a direction and we stood by it, and we just started adapting to the market. So I feel like that's a good lesson for the people here, maybe if they're looking to start their own companies, or they're looking at companies that they want to join. That would be a good thing to look for in a successful company. So more and more, as we started moving to the cloud, we started seeing that the difficulties, that we started seeing different challenges that companies would face. So now, instead of having applications that would get directly delivered to you from your data center, you would have many different separate applications that you needed to log into, that you needed to remember passwords for, that the administrators needed to onboard. In order to onboard new users to the company, you would need to create a new username and password for each different service. And how do you keep an eye on what those users are doing? How do you maintain constant security posture across your different services? So those were many of the issues we were seeing. And if you could go to the next slide, please, Bruno. And we started reacting to them. So as you can see in this slide, as more and more people started working from home using cloud services, the customer experience actually started going down. And the risks to the business started increasing. We have so many different networks from which our users are accessing applications, or looking at our intellectual property. So many different devices with different security postures. So it started becoming extremely risky and extremely complicated to manage. Well, at the same time, for the users, it was really complex in order to know what you needed to do, how to actually be productive. So next slide, please, Bruno. So we decided to accelerate our shift to the cloud, take on, accept that the market was moving in a certain direction, and we started moving together with the market in that direction. We developed our workspace, which not only integrates the applications we would traditionally deliver from the data center, but it also integrates all applications that could be delivered from the cloud or web apps or any sort of service. So in one single space, users would be able to, with one password, maybe a double-factor authentication, access everything they need to do their job, no matter from what device or where they are. So this simplifies everything for the user and also for the administrator. From one console, you can manage all your different workloads, applications, and data, no matter where they are located. And additionally, we have visibility, and something very interesting, which we think it's going to be more and more important throughout the year, which is analytics. We're able to see, we have three different types of analytics. Analytics for security, which help us see what the normal behavior of a user is. And if users deviate from that behavior, we can immediately take action, pre-programmed actions, so that administrators don't have to constantly be looking and seeing what's going on, but automatic actions, no matter where the data is stored. Citrix can help companies automate their security, develop what we call a zero trust environment. We also have productivity analytics, which looks at, I feel like this is one of the most important ones, because it looks at what the users that are being more productive are doing, and it helps us understand what that best practice is and spread that best practice through the population of users. So instead of companies like some users being super productive and others not being that productive, with productivity analytics, administrators are going to be able to pinpoint exactly what those productive users are doing and try to replicate that through a population of users. And we also have analytics for our whole IT infrastructure. So looking at how the servers are performing, if there's potential for a server to maybe perform even better, if it was performing at a certain rate and it went down, or maybe the network or the device of the user, having constant visibility of how everything's performing within your IT infrastructure can help you do proactive actions. So instead of waiting for an end user to raise a ticket and complain that their connection, that their application is not running properly, that they're not being able to do their job properly, we're going to be able to proactively take action and help everyone perform as best as possible. So we were constantly expanding our portfolio and then focusing in exactly on what our users need the most. Next slide, Bruno, please. Oh, all right. And on top of those analytics, we're moving more towards a world where everything is kind of separate, yet we need to have full control of it. So there's a new term, it's called Secure Access Service Edge. And Citrix's position, I feel like this might be a little bit too technical, but I'm just really excited about one of these products. I feel like we're starting to move not only to deliver that workspace environment to the user, but we're also helping protect everything that the user is doing. So it might be like yourselves that are right now at home and are accessing some FAU applications, so maybe have work as well and are accessing some work applications from home. So how does your company make sure that you're secure at home, that you're behind a firewall, that you have proper malware protection, that you have data loss prevention, so intellectual property from the company is not getting lost? So this is our new product, is Secure Internet Access. So on top of delivering that workspace for all the users, we're adding an extra security layer. So whenever users access anything from their home, they're going to go through our Secure Internet Access cloud service and then access the internet through that. So in that cloud service, we have a firewall, we have a gateway, we have malware protection, we have pretty much a whole stack of security that's not only protecting people that are working at the office in the data center, where traditionally they would be behind a firewall, but it's also giving all that protection that would usually be in an office to everyone that's at home. So as I was saying since the beginning, like we have a focus on helping people deliver access from any device, any application, any data, and we're constantly building upon it depending on the needs from the market, especially now from everyone working at home. And that analytics portion, so even when people are working from home, we're being able to monitor what they're doing, how the employees are performing, and maybe helping us take actionable information so we can help them perform even better. And now I'll pass it on to Bruno so he shows us what we're doing with analytics here at Citrix.
Awesome, cool. Before I go into that, there's a couple of things that I wanted to pinpoint because it may not be familiar to everyone, but we do have a couple of interfaces that the customers, the users really interact with, and those are the storefront, Essentially, what that does is allows users to pick from a number of applications and even virtual desktops that IT had pre-programmed for them. It allows them to securely sign in with multi-factor authentication and then launch those apps. And again, those apps are not installed on their local devices. So they can use a Chromebook, they could use an older laptop that doesn't really need a lot of throttle and a lot of throughput. And you can use any of the SaaS applications, regardless of the version that you're running on your operating system or on your browser. So those are things that are important, especially when we're talking about people accessing from home and being able to deliver a unique experience to every user. In the middle of the screen, you're going to see the Citrix workspace that I alluded to earlier. It's a smaller screenshot, but at least you can see at least the display and how it looks, and you can see that it is a unified experience. If you look at it on the right-hand side, right below where it says Citrix Workspace, you can see there has all those tabs on the side. Essentially, what that does is it gives the users the ability to pick from applications, their desktops, and even their data. So that gives them the ability to not only review what's available to them, but it actually guides their work. So in the middle of the page, you have similar to an Instagram feed or a social media feed where you can go in and you can guide your work. Citrix guides their work into what needs attention, right? And I don't want to get into the weeds too much, but we have partnerships with many vendors where those applications are already built in, but we also give the ability for developers to also build in those micro apps. So it becomes a dynamic platform for companies to also build upon, right?
Bruno,
So yes.
And if I could, I really like this slide because it shows kind of the timeline for Citrix. In the first one, you're seeing just the usual applications we used to deliver, or we still deliver from the typical company data center. Then in the second one, we integrated SaaS applications, we integrated single sign-on, two-factor authentication, we integrated even exchange of files, like we can put onto the platform whatever the company has in OneDrive or Google Drive, add it all to one place for the user. And in the last slide, this is like the final evolution of Citrix, or I mean, up till now, in which we're integrating artificial intelligence on top of that. So we're organizing all the applications, data, and virtual computers that people might need. We're also guiding their work, like Bruno was saying. It's like a type of like social media type of thing, which Facebook knows that maybe your cousin just had a birthday and it shows you that information. You don't have to go into your cousin's profile to find out he has a birthday. So same thing, but for work. So if at a certain point in time, Citrix notices that you usually approve budgets, then a tab from that application is going to show right in front of you at that time of day and help you guide you into what the next step in your work should be. And it's also automating that work, because instead of opening an application, we can integrate pretty much any application onto this platform. So instead of opening X application, you might say SAP or I don't know, Workday. You do a micro application. There's a technical audience, so I know you guys might know what an API is. We integrate with application APIs and we create micro tabs. So only the actionable thing that you were going to do within that application that you would usually need to sign in, go within a menu, a sub menu, and take it the action, that specific action pops up right in front of your main page where you do most of your work. So I think that this is pretty interesting.
Yes, it beats going down your email list on Outlook to find out what you need to do. It actually surfaces all of that work for you in one clean, unique look. So I want to pivot a little bit more towards the analytics, because, all that we talked about, it kind of, boils down to how well Citrix is using the data that it's collecting, and what are we doing to actually guide work and make it a better experience for customers. So what you're seeing in front of you is a sneak peek behind the curtain. So this is something that I use every day to help my customers. And as I mentioned earlier, I manage a renewals team. And what we do is we have contracts that are coming up for renewal. And those contracts are typically a 1-year contract or a 3-year contract, depending on the type of customer. And a lot of the times customers don't know what they get with what they bought, because especially on longer contracts. So my team uses these data points to guide the conversation with the customer. So for example, if we look at Answer Quest, right, the first one that you see, we can look at their overall health. So it gives you a requires attention logo. So this is not dynamic, but my rep would potentially click into this and figure out what attention is actually needed. It brings up a cloud success manager sentiment. What that is that through their cloud journey, Citrix gives the customers a CSM is a cloud success manager. So they give them all the tools that they need to get those applications onto Citrix, and make use of the goodness that Daniel just shared around security and productivity. And that CSM, they call out their sentiment on their likelihood to renew. So that gives my team the ability to go in and say, okay, in this case, it's null. But for example, the one below, it's red. So we would go in and figure out from the CSM, hey, why did you put red? What are some of the things that you're seeing? And then the CSM could say, well, they had a support ticket that was open for many months and nobody was able to figure it out. Or, if you look at here, there was a severity 1 case in the past year that the customer is still trying to figure out how to overcome. So those data points are important for us in renewals to go in and be able to instead of going in blind, because the worst thing that you want to do is go into a conversation with the customer. So, your renewal is coming due. And they say, well, I've had an issue for the past 6 months and now you're calling me to collect the renewal. It's not a pretty conversation. And Daniel's smiling because he's had those conversations, because when he was in renewals, we didn't have that insight. So he's gotten beat up a few times. Another piece that I think is important is the hybrid rights. Hybrid rights really means the ability for customers to use their on-premises environment and also the cloud environment. So a lot of customers have a path to the cloud, because you got to remember, you're not talking one user, you're not talking a small company, you're talking hundreds of users with, several departments that depend on this technology. So you can expect that with the flip of a switch, companies are going to move from a on-prem archaic deployment to a fully outsourced cloud deployment. So there is a cloud journey, and every customer is in a different stage. So when we see hybrid rights here, it tells us, hey, this customer is in between or is in the process of fully migrating to cloud. And the last piece here, let me move the camera over. So there's 2 pieces that I think it's important. It calls out the product group. So essentially it's telling, hey, this customer has content collaboration or virtual apps and desktops or whatever product they have. And it calls out for 2 very important metrics. The number 1 is cloud health scoring, which is an aggregate of many data points, which I'll go over in a minute, and active use. So active use really means, out of the pool of licenses that the customer has, how many users are actually utilizing those services. And, you know, we even have the ability to go into those active users and find out, you know, if John is using, you know, Office or SAP or Workday or Salesforce, what applications is he using? And, you know, what's the telemetry on that application? Has it crashed? Has he been, you know, experiencing a lot of lag? So there's a lot of granularity that goes into the active use, dashboard. But I do want to go back to cloud health scoring because I think it'll be interesting for everyone on this call, because we have a machine learning, maybe a bot or a script that we run that pulls the type of product that the customer has, you know, how many times they renewed in the past, how many users are actually using the licenses, what is the CSM sentiment that I talked about earlier, how many cases were open in the past, have they bought product earlier, meaning they bought new licenses that, you know, maybe overlap, and they gather all of those data points and they spit out a cloud health scoring. And, you know, this is something that we didn't have before, especially on the renewals organization, because when we call into a customer, we want to be prepared. But also on the flip side, if you know, Citrix is a publicly traded company, and Wall Street is very keen on us delivering our expectations to the market, right? So forecasting is something that's super important. So for example, if we have $1 million of customers that should be renewing for a specific quarter, and we renew at an 80% or at a 90%, you know, that's strong, right? In the subscription business, you want to be anywhere from, you know, upwards of 80. So when we look at the cloud health scoring, this is a good metric for us in leadership to see, well, you know, we have a pool of licenses, a pool of customers that are supposed to renew. How likely are these customers going to renew, and what can we do to proactively maybe change the course of action? So if I show you on the next slide, I think it'll make a lot more sense. So let me move this over. Okay, so again, this is a peek behind the curtain. This is live data as of yesterday, so please don't share anywhere because this is confidential. But I did want to show this because it gives you a snapshot of what the customer looks like to Citrix, right? So this customer is, the account owner is Patrick. So Patrick is responsible for this relationship with Citrix. So, you know, if I go and I call into this account, I want to, you know, double check with Patrick to see if there's any, you know, projects or anything that's going on in the account before I reach out. Another thing that's important, you know, I talked about the CSM earlier. It gives me who the CSM is and what their sentiment is for that renewal. So, you know, are there any cases? Was the customer upset? Are they using the product? Have they, you know, purchased in the past, and things like that. If we look at it on the second row here, I really like tenure because it shows how many years this customer has been with Citrix. So a lot of the times when, you know, customer has been with us for 10 plus years, you want to let them know, hey, you know, thank you for your continued partnership. You know, thank you for your business. This is, you know, it's a nice touch, especially today. ACV means annual contract value. So, you know, at a glance, we can see how much this customer represents to Citrix from a dollar standpoint. And it gives you the breakdown of what the tier is. So, you know, it fluctuates between 15 and 100K for that renewal. And, you know, it ties it back to specific tiers. And the reason why that's important is because our teams, they're broken down by segments, by tiers. So you have the micro team that looks at renewals of ACV below 15K. You have volume space that looks at 15 to 50. You have commercial, and then you have enterprise. So again, this is another piece of data that's important for us to see right out of the gates. Another thing that's important is, are they in auto renewal? Are they using the licenses? What is their likelihood to renew? And it also gives you the number and the types of cases that were open and maybe are closed, or what the status is. So again, when Daniel was talking about, hey, data, it's all nice and fun, but this is real deal. This is what I use every day to help my customers. Okay. So I wanted to show that because, I feel like in these sessions, we want to bring the classroom to the real life scenario. And I want to encourage you that anything that you have around, business intelligence, data analysis, analytics, predictive modeling, anything around that, this is something that we use day in and day out. All right. Yes.
So I feel like I would have loved to have this when I was in renewals. I remember I just got a huge list of renewals, and I would just go like one by one, top to bottom, start calling people. And with this information, you would know exactly who you need to target first, who's most at risk, who's going to represent most of your revenue, which is awesome. And I feel like this is very specific for renewals, but I hope everyone here can translate what we're telling them into whatever project they have that they're into right now. I have a customer that he's applying analytics to his business right now. It's a customer in Mexico that developed some software for retail stores, like small mom and pop shops around the country. He has more than like 30,000 customers using his software, which is delivered through Citrix. But up until last year, he wouldn't really know which customer was going to renew his actual software delivered through Citrix and which customer wasn't. But now that he has analytics through Citrix, he can actually look at active use, see how often they're connecting, see how many issues they have. And not only, so analytics doesn't only apply to us at Citrix, but pretty much to anyone that wants to get some actionable information for their business and increase their customers returning, increase their satisfaction, knowing who they need to talk to. I feel like all of this is super important, and it's pretty much like como oro en polvo, like gold in powder.
Nice touch.
Yeah, so okay. I think with that, it's a good time to kind of reach out to see if some of the group have any questions and maybe talk about any of the opportunities that, like I said, you have on your team or other things that specifically at.
Awesome. Yeah.